Let's look at the sentences from chapter 25. Number 1, exercitationes. Quisquid inquit semper putat suas res esse magnas. Each, well, he says, this is the he or she said, he said, she said. Each thinks, everybody, each person thinks. And what do we have after verbs of saying, thinking? Indirect statement. In our indirect statement, this is the accusative, plural, feminine, and it is the subject. Use in the sentence, subject of indirect statement. Present active infinitive of to be, and magnas is just your adjective modifying race. Each, he says, thinks his own affairs, his own matters, his own concerns are great. So notice the essay, the sequence of tenses. Essay is the present tense. That means the thinking and the being are the same time. He thinks that at this moment they are. Okay? That's how that works. Number 2. Postea audivimus servos donorum causa labora vise, ut milites fideles heri naraverunt. Afterwards, this is your adverb, we heard, first person plural, present perfect, active indicative. After the audivimus, we have servos donorum causa labora vise. And I'm going to set that off as the indirect statement. Then we finish the sentence with an ut clause, which just means as the faithful soldiers had narrated, had told us, third person plural, pluperfect, active indicative, as the faithful soldiers had told us yesterday. Now, I wanted to get that out of the way so we could focus on the indirect statement. We have the accusative, plural, masculine, which is the subject of the indirect statement. Causa donorum is just a phrase that means for the sake of gifts, and labora vise is the pluperfect, perfect, simple perfect, active infinitive. Infinitive. I wrote indicative, I mean infinitive. Now, here's the trick. Here's how we have to worry about that. If you have in the main clause, it is a perfect tense, okay? It's already in the past tense. And in the indirect statement, you have a perfect tense. That means the labora viseing, this verb in a timeline takes place before the main verb. And when the main verb is in the perfect tense, how do we throw it back into the past? In English, we use the word had. Afterwards, we heard, so yesterday we heard that prior to that, that's what the use of the perfect tense of the infinitive means, prior to that, the slaves had worked for the sake of gifts, as the soldiers, faithful soldiers, had told us yesterday. So all of this is in the past tense. So again, the hearing is in the past tense. And when the verb in the indirect statement is in the past tense, that means it needs to go before that verb. And the way we do that in English is had. Number 3. Vicini nostri vim ignis magna virtute de hinc averterunt, quod laudem, atque dona cupiverunt. So we have a quod and a cupiverunt. That's just a because clause. So again, I like to analyze the structure of the sentence first. So this happened, the vicini did something, because here's the verb. The NT is third person plural. So the neighbors, they did something because something something. That's the structure. And in this case, notice there's no indirect statement. Our neighbors, they turned aside. Okay? The turned aside what? The accusative singular feminine. The force of the fire. Ignis in this case is genitive singular feminine. Our neighbors turned aside the force of the fire from this place, de hinc, with great virtue. Ablative singular feminine. What kind of ablative? Ablative of manner. Because they desired, what do they desire? Laudem atque dona, praise and gifts. I don't know. I think just turning aside the fire is always a good chance. Well, they only turned aside the fire because they wanted praise and gifts, I suppose is the argument. I'm not sure I buy it, but that's the premise of the sentence, so that's fine. Whatever the reason, our neighbors turned aside from here the force of the fire with great virtue. And so I don't understand why if they did it with great virtue, is wanting gifts and praise virtuous? Don't know. Don't have enough information. Let's just understand the grammar. I don't need to get hung up on that. I don't want you to get hung up on that either. Understand the grammar, and we'll move on to number 4. Hoc signum periculi totam gentam nostrum tanget. Nisi hostem ex urbe excipere ac ab Italia pellere poterimus. So, structure the sentence. Here's the main part. Hoc signum tanget. Unless, nisi, something happens, unless we do this, we will be able to do this, 2 things. Thing A and thing B. So, this sign will touch, tango tangere, will touch this sign of danger, genitive singular neuter, will touch what? The gentem, accusative singular feminine, the totam gentam, and nostrum, our whole nation, our whole unless we will be able to what? To excipere, to take out, ex plus scipio, literally take out the enemy, accusative singular feminine, but it's the direct object of excipere, take out the enemy from the city, and to drive them from Italy. I'm mildly distracted because I want to point out to you the use of the poterimus. The Romans are going to use the future a lot more than we are. I mean, obviously poterimus, unless we will do this. And that's a problem in English. What are you doing tonight? Oh, I am going to the store. Oh, and the Roman would hear you say, I am going to the store, and they would say, you're going to the store now? And you're like, no, I will later. And the Roman would be confused because when they asked you directly, the Roman asked you directly, hey, are you doing this? What are you doing tonight? What are you doing later? You answered in the present tense. And then when you asked for clarification, you said you used the future tense. The Romans are much more consistent. That's why the use of the poterimus, and that's why it's okay. We don't feel compelled to translate in the future tense, because in English we don't. What are you doing tonight? I'm going to the store. No, now. Not now. What are you doing later? I will be going to the store. Ah, thank you, says the Roman. We don't have that problem. We are less careful about using the future tense in English, or more often we use the present tense when we really want to use the future. So I wanted to take that opportunity to show why poterimus, first person plural, future perfect, indicative. And even though it's future perfect, it's the same idea. Unless we will have driven them, I'm sorry, it's not future perfect, it is future. See, I got all distracted on this future talk. I suppose I could cut this out. Don't worry about this, I'll edit this out of the video. But the point is, the future tense in Latin is much more consistent with what's happening in the future than we do in English. I'll stop there. Number 5, Duce feroce Carthagines expulso, spes fidesque virorum magnanimorum rem publicam continebunt. Starts out with an ablative absolute, with the leader having been expulsed. Specifically, with the fierce leader. This is ablative singular masculine, Expulso is the perfect passive participle. Also, ablative singular neuter, and the two go together, with the fierce leader of the Carthaginians having been driven out. The hope and faith of men, genitive plural, of men magnanimous, men great men. They will hold will hold the republic. Not the men will hold, but the hope and faith will hope of great men will hold together the republic. Third person plural, future, active, indicative. Number 6. Cur iucundus Horatius culpas humanas in Saturis semper ostendebat atque ridebat. Why? Starts out with a question. Why did Horatius do this and that? That's the structure of the sentence. Don't stray from that. Again, I encourage you to understand the structure of the sentence before you jump in translating. So why did Horace, what kind of Horace? Why did pleasing Horace, did he show third person singular, imperfect, active, indicative? And ridebat, same thing, third singular, imperfect, active, indicative. Why did he show the faults? Accusative, plural, feminine. What kind of faults? Human faults. Why did he show the human faults and laugh at them in his satires? Horace was a famous Roman poet who made fun of a lot of people. He wrote a lot of satire. And so that's what's going on here. Poking fun at people. He's a smart aleck. And so but he was so nice. Why did pleasant Horace show and laugh at the human faults always in his satires? Number 7, credimus. Ding, 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 ding. Credimus, we believe. What's going to happen after this? What should we expect? Accusative subject, infinitive verb. Because we believe, what do we say in English? We believe that. So I want you to get that in your head. Credimus, fidem antiquam omnibus gentibus iterum allendam esse. And we are correct. We believe that, and bracket that off, accusative subject, accusative singular feminine, that faith, specifically ancient faith, allendam esse. Ooh, a little twist on that, because it's not just the verb, it's the passive periphrastic. Now let's jump to that. What do we expect with passive periphrastic? Future passive participle, check. Form of the verb to be, check. And what else? Dative of agent. This is your dative of agent, dative plural, gains gentis, say feminine, and it is your dative use in the sentence, dative of agent. We believe that ancient faith must again be nourished by all peoples, by all nations, by all. That's fine. So the credimus sets up the indirect statement. Indirect statement means accusative subject, infinitive verb. And now we've got that passive periphrastic, a little specialized view of that, setting up the dative of agent. Number 8. Dux ad senatum missus imperium accepit et imperator factus est. So the leader, he did this and he did that, or that was done. Dux, nominative singular masculine. Missus, the perfect passive participle, so it must be an ablative absolute, right? No, if you stopped the recording right then, you would have thought, what? That's crazy. Why? Well, it's not ablative. Dead giveaway there. And it's not absolute, meaning it's not loosened from the part of the sentence. It goes directly to, in other words, you can draw a line to another part of the sentence. It's not set off by itself. The leader, having been sent to the Senate, accepted, took, third person singular, present, perfect, active, indicative, took on the power, accusative, singular masculine, and became, third person singular, present perfect, passive, indicative, emperor, imperator. Now, I said became, but that sounds active, and this is clearly passive. It doesn't matter. You can say he was made emperor, which is literally what it is, or he became emperor. And I think the Romans would not understand the difference. The problem is in English. To the Roman, let me be clear, to the Roman it's just factus est. And so if you say factus est, well, do you mean he was made or became? I think to the Roman they would argue that's all the same. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to believe and kind of hard to get your head around. But the problem is, well, which way do we do it? I don't know. Which would we normally mean? What would we normally say in this sentence? Sometimes, how do you as an English speaker decide when you're going to say he was made or he became? I don't know that answer. I genuinely don't. But that's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's the answer you need to come up with before you can answer this or translate this in a beautiful way. Again, for the purposes of this class, we don't have enough context. It doesn't make a bit of difference as long as you understand the grammar and understand that it's perfectly acceptable to translate it became. Let's move on to number 9. Res publica ut ait libellis huius modi tolli potest. Ooh, huius modi tolli. Modi tolli, that's just fun to say, number 1. Number 2, modi tolli, that's going to throw you. Let's read this. Res publica, the republic, is able, there's our verb. Where is the complementary infinitive? Third person singular present active infinitive. The republic, present active indicative. The republic is able what? Tolli. This is your present passive infinitive. And it is not, I believe strongly it's thrown in here to put in here to throw you for a loop. It is not the indirect statement. It is put in here, strictly speaking, to confuse you, to show you this is not the indirect statement. This is a complementary infinitive with potest. The republic, as he said, is able to be destroyed by books of this sort. So this is the ablative of means, by the means of the books. Of this sort is just genitive of description, if you want to say it. It's not the possessive genitive. The republic, as he says, is able to be destroyed by books of this sort. Number 10. Aliqui negant hostes victos servitute umquam opprimendos esse. Number 10. Some people negant, they deny. And what do we have? Denying is a verb of saying. So after verbs of saying, showing, or telling, or believing, what do you have? Indirect statement. And what do we expect with indirect statement? Accusative subject, infinitive verb. Here's your accusative subject, and then your infinitive verb. And again, we have the passive periphrastic in here. Some people deny, third person plural, present active indicative. It's important that we know the tense. Some people deny that an enemy conquered by slavery, servitude, ablative of means, must ever be oppressed. Some people deny, okay, that conquered enemies, that's fine, should ever be pressed down by servitude. Does that make sense? No, it's difficult because what is deny? Some people say deny means to say not. Let's try that. Some people say that a conquered enemy must not ever be pressed down by servitude. And so I think in that case, these are tough sentences, number 1. But when you say deny, deny equals some people deny that a conquered enemy must be pressed down by, should ever be pressed down by servitude, or some people say that a conquered enemy must never be pressed down by servitude. In other words, you've conquered them, that's bad enough. Be done with it. Number 11. Credunt magistram sapientem veritatem patefecturum esse. They believe. And what do they believe? Well, we believe that we're going to have an indirect statement here. Accusative subject, infinitive verb. They believe that a teacher, accusative, singular, feminine, a wise teacher, and that's your subject in the indirect statement, they believe that a wise teacher will lay open, make visible the truth. So this is accusative, singular, feminine. This is the verb in indirect statement. It's the future active participle, accusative, singular, feminine, and again, verb in indirect statement. Veritatem is the direct object of the verb in the indirect statement. Number 12. Quis veritatem quaeret, atque recipiet bene educabitur. Whoever seeks the truth and recipiet, receives it, will be educated well. All of these are future active indicative, and this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. We say whoever seeks, whoever will seek. The Romans are going to say whoever will seek, because if they wanted to make it present, they would say whoever is seeking the truth, like right now. And does that mean that? I think there's arguments both ways. But again, why am I translating a future tense with the English present? Because that's how we do it in English. We are not as consistent in our future tense and present tense. Number 13. We thought that your sisters were writing the letter. We thought, and that, notice the indirect statement here. So let's get this out of the way. We thought, first person plural, imperfect, active indicative, putabamus. We thought that, and we don't have a word for that, your sisters, accusative, plural, feminine, because it's plural, it's accusative because it's the subject of indirect statement. Your sisters, can modify that, were writing, this is your verb, the letter, accusative, and letter in the plural is plural in Latin. Were writing. It's going to be the infinitive, and it's going to be the active infinitive. What tense is it going to be? Is the writing and the thinking going on at the same time? We thought that your sisters were writing. Yes, the thinking and the writing is going on at the same time, so it's going to be the present tense. If we thought that your sisters had written the letter, had written would throw it back in time before the thinking. Oh, yesterday we thought we had already written the letter. That would be the pluperfect, that would be the perfect tense of the infinitive, because you only got 3 choices, but the imperfect throws it back in the past, relevant to the main verb. But in this case, the thinking and the writing is happening at the same time. Your sisters, tuos, it could be, tuos, your sisters, could be two, I don't know if there's one you or more than one you. I've chosen one. Tuos, sorores, your sisters, were writing, scribere, the letter, literas. How's that? Putabamus tuas sorores, scribere, literas. Number 14, they will show that the letter was written by the brave slave girl. They will show, that's third person, plural, future, active indicative. That, the letter, so we don't need a word for that. The letter, accusative, and letter, again, plural, feminine, was written. The showing, okay, where is the showing? They're showing it in the future, but the writing it was in the past, so we're going to use the perfect tense of the infinitive, perfect active, passive infinitive, by the brave slave girl, ablative, singular, feminine. They will show. They will show that the letter, literas, was written, scriptas esse, and we need a preposition here, a forti, by the brave girl, serva. Demonstrabunt, they will show, literas scriptas esse a forti serva. Number 15, he said that the letter had never been written. So he said in the past that prior to the past, in other words, further back in the past, it had never been written. He said, this is third person singular, present perfect, active indicative. He said that the letter, accusative plural feminine, had never been, written, and never is just the adverb, but this is going to be the perfect passive infinitive. Dixit literas numquam scriptas esse. Notice the infinitive of this sentence, scriptas esse, is the same infinitive as this sentence here. Let me clear that up. Why do we translate them differently? Because the verb of an indirect statement, the infinitive verb of an indirect statement, does not tell you anything in and of itself. It only tells you time in relation to the main verb. In this one, the main verb is future. And the infinitive, the writing went before the main verb. The main verb is the future. So the past, we don't have to in English. The problem is in English. In English, if we're going back from the future, it's just in the past, was written. But in this sentence, he said, that's past tense. If we need to go back before the action of the main verb in English, we go to had. Again, it's the English that's the problem. The English translation, I would argue. Let's look at number 16. We hope that the judge's wife will write those two letters tomorrow. The future isn't problematic. We hope that the wife, accusative, singular feminine, accusative subject and indirect statement, will write what letters, and tomorrow is an adverb. Those two letters, that's fine. We hope, speramus, okay, that the wife, ux orem, of the judge, Eutychus, okay, will write those two. Let's put the, that's fine. We'll put the verb here. Scripturas esse, scripturam, she will write. The liter duos, those two letters. Those duos literas cross. I think I'd put the cross up here, just right in here. We hope that the wife of the judge tomorrow will write those two letters. And there you go. Next, we will go on to the Sententiae Antiquae.